Hello, my radiant Leo souls, have you felt it? That sudden restlessness, that electric hum in the air that you can't quite explain? A storm of change is coming for you and you won't see it coming. But here's the truth, it's not arriving to tear you apart. It's here to awaken you. Welcome to Eternal Mindfulness, where every message is a gentle cosmic invitation to reconnect with your inner truth. If you've landed on this video today, I want you to know it is not a coincidence. The universe works in sacred patterns, not randomness. And something in your energy called this reading into being. Right now, many Leos around the world are feeling like something massive is shifting beneath their feet. The familiar is becoming fragile. Certainties are turning into questions. And if you're honest with yourself, you might admit you've outgrown some part of your life. But here's the beautiful part, this storm isn't here to punish you. It's here to strip away everything that is false, and reveal what's real, what's worthy, and what's been waiting for you all along. You see, Leo, yours is the sign of light, of passion, of leadership. But even the brightest flame sometimes forgets its own fire when buried under the weight of expectation or fear. That's why this moment is so important. It's not just about change. It's about remembering. Remembering who you are when no one's watching. Remembering what you came here to lead, love, and create. In Buddhist philosophy, we are reminded that what feels like loss is often the beginning of liberation. When things fall apart on the outside, it is usually because something more truthful is asking to emerge from within. So if you're feeling the ground shake good, that means your soul is stirring. Let me ask you something real. What led you here today? Was it heartbreak? Uncertainty? Or maybe a quiet knowing that you're meant for more? Whatever it was, I honor that inner whisper that guided you here. And I want you to honor it too. In fact, if any part of what I've said so far resonates with you, drop a comment below and write, "I'm ready to face the storm and rise." Let that be your cosmic yes to the universe. And now, let me take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for your presence here. Every like, every comment, every moment you choose to spend with this channel fuels something much bigger than you or me. It fuels a community of truth seekers, healers, and courageous souls like you who are willing to grow beyond comfort. Thank you from the very bottom of my heart for being part of Eternal Mindfulness. And Leo, trust me, you'll want to stay with me until the very end of this video. Because what the universe is about to reveal today, it's not just information. It's transformation. This is your turning point. So take a deep breath, center your heart, and let's step into the storm together. As we gently step into this next chapter of your journey, dear Leo, I invite you to reflect on what money has come to mean in your life, not just as currency, but as a mirror of your inner value system. The winds of the storm may have stirred up more than emotions. They may have shaken your sense of security, your relationship with abundance, and your ability to feel grounded in a world that is constantly shifting. But that's exactly why this moment holds so much potential. You are not being stripped of stability, you are being offered the chance to redefine what wealth truly means to you. The reversal of the Five of Pentacles is not just an omen of financial healing, it's an invitation to move out of isolation, out of survival mode, and back into trust. Trust in your resourcefulness. Trust in the unseen support around you. Trust in the quiet wisdom that tells you, you don't have to do this alone. You see, Leo, pride has long been your strength, your crown. But when pride hardens into stubbornness, it becomes a wall that keeps help from getting in. And sometimes, true power lies not in appearing unshaken, but in having the humility to say, I'm ready to start again. Cosmically, you're in a phase where Earth energies, those steady, practical forces, are challenging you to reevaluate your material world. When planets retrograde through Earth signs, they don't aim to cause destruction. They aim to pause your momentum just long enough so you can ask, is this structure supporting me or suffocating me? And in that sacred pause, your transformation begins. Financial hardship, when viewed through a compassionate lens, becomes a teacher rather than a punishment. It teaches simplicity. It teaches discernment. It teaches appreciation. And beyond the numbers in your account, it teaches presence, the kind of presence that doesn't fear what it lacks, but finds peace in what it has. The soft whisper of wisdom suggests, to build wealth that lasts, you must build it with a peaceful heart, not a desperate one. Perhaps the most radical act you can take now is not to push harder, but to soften your approach. Start with awareness. Where has money become entangled with your worth? Where are you spending not to fulfill a need, but to fill a void? These questions are not here to judge you, but to illuminate you. There is no shame in starting over, only the clarity that comes from finally seeing the cracks in the foundation you once mistook for strength. Let this be a season where you learn to receive without guilt, to spend with intention, and to save with self-respect. Write a new contract with your finances, not from fear, but from faith. Set small goals. Track your habits. Simplify your lifestyle where needed, not as an act of lack, but as a practice of honoring your future self. And through it all, root yourself in the present moment. Abundance begins with enoughness. Not the kind measured in possessions, but in your breath, in your clarity, in your resilience. As the earth grounds you, let the color of deep, earthy brown guide your focus. It is the color of rooted trees, of soil that nourishes seeds, of homes built to last. You are not the sum of your setbacks, Leo. You are the spirit that rises after them, wiser and more intentional. Repeat to yourself not just as affirmation, but as a vow, I am not defined by failure, but by how I rise. In doing so, you claim not just money but mastery. And so, dear Leo, as we move from the stirring winds of purpose into the tender chambers of your heart, we arrive at a moment of truth, one that does not ask for performance or pride, but for stillness and honesty. Love, as it shows up in your current energy, is not here to merely comfort you. It is here to awaken you. And perhaps that's why it doesn't look like what you expected. Perhaps that's why it trembles at the edges. In this chapter, the tower appears bold, fierce, and unapologetically real. A symbol of sudden truth and collapsing illusions, this card rarely whispers. It arrives like thunder to shake what was never built on solid ground. And for you, Leo, whose heart shines like the sun itself, the tower comes not to dim your light, but to clear the smoke so you can see what's always been there. When it lands in your love life, it doesn't mean love is gone. It means love is asking to be redefined. There may be a realization rising now, something you've quietly known but haven't yet named. It could be a connection that no longer reflects your deeper values. Or maybe it's a habit of giving too much, of trading your worth for a version of love that only mimics real intimacy. What's collapsing here isn't your heart, it's the scaffolding you've wrapped around it to feel safe. But safety built on pretense is not peace. And your soul knows this. Cosmically, Venus is moving through shadowy terrain in your emotional sky. This is not accidental. This celestial passage reveals the parts of love that have gone unspoken. It brings light to the corners we've ignored, the dynamics we've tolerated, and the ways we've made ourselves small just to be accepted. And now, everything false begins to fall away, not because you failed, but because you've outgrown what was never meant to hold you. There is a kind of compassion in this undoing. The kind that doesn't rescue, but releases. The kind that doesn't promise immediate clarity, but gives you back your sovereignty. You may feel the ground shaking, the air thick with uncertainty. But know this, it is not punishment. It is presence. When the earth quakes under your feet, it teaches you to listen deeper. Not to the chaos, but to the center of stillness beneath it. Sometimes, heartbreak isn't caused by someone else's betrayal, but by our own silence, those moments when we abandoned our intuition just to keep a connection alive. But no more. This is your moment to rewrite your love contract, not with another, but with yourself. What are you no longer willing to trade for affection? What does real love feel like in your body, not just your fantasy? What do you need to feel safe enough to stay open? In numerology, the number 16 mirrors this transformation. It speaks of breaking down illusions to reveal your soul's true architecture. It is a sacred collapse, a necessary clearing, a turning of the soil so new roots can take hold. If you've been feeling that love has abandoned you, know that it hasn't. It's just shedding its costume. And what remains will be truer than anything you've held before. Let the color black with a shimmer of silver be your guide during this time. It is not a symbol of loss, but of refinement. It reflects what is stripped away and what still shines through. It invites you into truth, not a harsh one, but an honest one. One that says, you don't have to earn love. You never did. And so, Leo, let your heart break but not down. Let it break open. Because on the other side of this surrender is not loneliness. It's liberation. And the love that finds you after you've made room for it will never ask you to hide again. Just as the heart begins to remember its own rhythm after a long storm, your path now shifts from the emotional terrain of love into the outer expression of your fire, your purpose, your work, your voice in the world. This next chapter isn't about finding a job or reaching a goal. It's about honoring the place within you that was always meant to lead. And though that may sound lofty, for you, Leo, it's actually a return to your natural frequency. You were never meant to stay small. You were born under the sign of solar power, after all. And when the King of Wands appears in your reading, it's not asking you if you're ready. It's reminding you that readiness is a myth. Showing up is what matters now. There may be a part of you that still doubts the timing. You may feel underprepared, unsure, or afraid of being seen too fully. But the truth is, nothing about what's coming next requires perfection. It only requires presence. The King of Wands isn't about authority through control, it's about embodied clarity. That steady fire in the eyes of someone who has walked through darkness and now holds their light without apology. And sometimes, you only learn how to hold that light when you're asked to stand in it before you feel ready. This is why discomfort often precedes transformation. When life places you in a position of visibility or responsibility, it isn't testing your ego, it's testing your willingness to trust your inner compass. Leadership, in its purest form, is service. It's a devotion to the truth inside you, no matter how uncertain the path looks ahead. And when you choose to stop hiding, even in small ways, the world starts responding differently. People notice. Opportunities appear. The energy shifts. There is a quiet teaching that says, when the moment comes, don't seek to become it, let it reveal who you already are. That's what this period is about. Not chasing titles or applause, but allowing your inner voice to catch up with the space your life is making for it. If you've been hesitating, waiting for the perfect sign, the polished skill set, the external validation, consider this your invitation to move anyway. Apply for the thing. Speak up in the meeting. Share your project. Ask for what you deserve. The path ahead isn't paved with certainty, but with courage. And courage is never wasted. This moment also speaks of recognition. Someone is watching. A person of influence, a gatekeeper, a quiet supporter. Taken notice. Your energy is no longer invisible. This is why it's time to prepare, not with pressure, but with intention. Organize your work, refine your message, revisit the ideas you've been sitting on. Not because success depends on perfection, but because clarity loves preparation. From the perspective of inner development, the fire you carry isn't there to burn you out. It's there to warm others. But first, you have to allow yourself to be the first one it touches. So many of us were taught to fear our brightness, to dim ourselves in rooms where we felt too much. But true humility isn't hiding, it's knowing the light isn't yours alone. You carry it for those who can't yet see their own. Let the color golden orange be your companion now. It symbolizes conscious creation, noble confidence, and the kind of power that draws in exactly what belongs to you without force. Stand tall. Speak clearly. And if your voice trembles, speak anyway. You are not stepping into the spotlight for vanity, you're stepping in because your purpose has waited long enough. As you continue walking this unfolding path, Leo, there comes a point when your growth is no longer just about healing or awakening, it becomes about standing. Truly standing. This next phase, ushered in by the presence of the Seven of Wands, brings with it the sensation of resistance, of pushback, of challenge. And while it may be tempting to interpret this energy as an obstacle, it's more accurate to see it as a mirror. A mirror reflecting your readiness to own your truth, not just quietly within, but out loud, especially when it's not universally accepted. The energy surrounding you now isn't asking for approval, it's asking for alignment. With Mars lighting up the 10th house of your solar chart, the pressure you feel is purposeful. You're being asked to show up, not just for yourself, but for the work you came here to do. There is a spotlight forming, not always warm or comfortable, but one that holds space for your full presence. This isn't about conflict for the sake of ego. It's about learning how to stand in your center when the outer world pulls at you from every direction. Opposition, in this context, is not the enemy. It's the training ground. Life, as it often does, will introduce friction, not to break you but to reveal the parts of you that have been waiting to solidify. And this is where the real challenge lies, not in the opinions of others, but in the quiet, inner choice to stop negotiating your light. You weren't made to shrink into spaces that can't hold your truth. And yet, this doesn't mean you must become loud or forceful. Sometimes the most powerful stance is the one taken in stillness with conviction, not noise. There's a teaching that says, when we meet resistance on the path, it's not because we're wrong, it's because we've stepped into territory where truth disturbs comfort. And Leo, you've never been meant for comfort alone. Your journey is fiery, noble, and raw. You're here to create, to impact, to inspire. That kind of presence will always rattle a few cages. Let it. Not everyone will understand your choices. Some may question your timing. But their doubt has nothing to do with your direction. This moment is about anchoring into what is real for you. If others disagree, pause. Not to defend yourself, but to check if your response stems from your values or from the desire to be liked. There is no shame in wanting harmony. But peace built on self-erasure is not peace. You came here to be honest. Even if your voice shakes. Even if it costs comfort. Even if the road gets quieter for a while. Now is a powerful time to return to the essence of what makes you, you. Consider writing down 7 qualities that define your core: your passion, your courage, your loyalty, your fire, your intuition, your sense of justice, your creativity. Let them be your personal mantra. Speak them into your reflection each morning. Not to impress anyone, but to remember. To remind your nervous system that you are not here to perform. You are here to embody. Let the color ruby red be your companion through this terrain. It holds the energy of the warrior, not the aggressor, but the guardian of truth. It grounds you in purpose and lights up the path when things feel uncertain. It asks for boldness, but not recklessness, for strength, but not rigidity. There's nothing you need to prove. But there is something you must protect: your flame. Your sacred, inner fire that no one else can define or diminish. This moment may feel like a test, but it's really an invitation to stand tall, to rise above the noise, and to finally recognize that your presence, just as it is enough. When the outer challenges begin to quiet, and the pressure to prove yourself slowly fades, a softer invitation begins to emerge: the call not to fight, not to push forward, but to remember. And that's where you are now, Leo. You're not just being asked to overcome something, you're being asked to reconnect with something deeper, something older, something that was always inside you. After the fire, after the confrontation with your own leadership and the resistance that followed, this moment brings you back to the quiet truth that has always waited at the center of your being. The presence of the memory Nixie as your guiding oracle now speaks volumes. It suggests that what you need most is not to seek outward for answers, but to pause long enough to listen inward. This is about recollection, not nostalgia, but soul memory. Somewhere along your journey, there was a version of you who was fearless, imaginative, and unconcerned with how the world measured value. That version of you might have been 8 years old, or even younger. And while you've grown, evolved, and adapted, that part of you never left. It's just been waiting for you to return. The number 9, showing up here in your energetic field, marks the closing of a karmic loop. It's the end of a chapter, not as loss, but as liberation. You've reached a point where continuing with the same beliefs, the same patterns, or the same attachments no longer supports who you're becoming. In the symbolic language of the stars, this is known as a clearing cycle. The energy you're experiencing now is less about adding and more about releasing. Not because you're broken, but because something has been fulfilled. The lesson has ripened. And now, the old skin can fall away. Astrologically, your sign is entering a phase where deeply embedded patterns, those related to identity, worth, and spiritual purpose, are rising to the surface to be seen, honored, and finally let go. And with that release comes something far more powerful than control: clarity. You may feel this in moments of reflection, unexpected emotion, or sudden flashes of memory that seem disconnected from your current life. Don't push them away. They're not distractions. They're clues. Echoes from the soul asking you to remember what you were always meant to be. There is a quiet practice that can help you now. Sit in stillness and ask yourself, would the 8-year-old version of me be proud of who I am today? Not as a judgment, but as an opening. That child held a certain clarity about joy, curiosity, fairness, and the kind of life that felt alive. Listen for what they have to say. Sometimes the voice of our inner child is the purest compass, especially when we are ready to rise again from the ashes of our own forgetting. In terms of energy, this is the most fertile point of your reading, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer pretending. You are no longer carrying what doesn't belong. And that level of truth creates an opening so rare, it can only be called rebirth. But unlike dramatic reinvention, this rebirth is gentle. It's not loud. It's honest. It comes not from becoming something new, but from remembering something true. The law of attraction echoes this. When you strip away everything false, your authentic frequency becomes magnetic. You no longer chase. You resonate. Let white with a shimmer of blue guide your choices now. It's the color of refined intuition, of clear perception, and of the mind that has learned how to rest. You don't have to force anything in this season. Just move with what feels real, and trust that what falls away is making space for something truer. You were never lost, Leo. Just distracted. And now you're coming home to the reason you were born: not to perform, not to please, but to become fully yourself. Quietly. Freely. And completely. And now, dear Leo, as we come to the close of this journey together, I invite you to take a slow, deep breath, not just to pause, but to truly feel what has shifted inside you. You've walked through the fire of truth, stood tall in the face of resistance, and remembered the brilliance that was never truly lost. The storm that's been circling in your life isn't here to break you down, it's here to break you open. And you've done more than weather it. You've met it with grace, with courage, and with the kind of inner power that doesn't ask for permission to shine. This message isn't just something to listen to and forget. It's a mirror reflecting the parts of you that are finally ready to rise. So ask yourself gently, without judgment, what are you ready to release that no longer belongs to the life you're building? What truth have you been afraid to speak because the world wasn't ready to hear it? And more importantly, are you finally ready to hear it yourself? Everything we've explored today, your finances, your love, your path, your battles, and your rebirth, is part of a larger rhythm unfolding through you. This rhythm doesn't follow the timelines of the world. It moves with the cycles of your soul. And if you've been feeling out of sync, like life is pushing you off balance, maybe that's because it's guiding you back into a deeper alignment. One that doesn't require force, only honesty. One that begins the moment you decide to stop hiding and start leading, not for applause, but for truth. Leo, you were never meant to follow. You were meant to remember that your light doesn't need validation to exist. It just needs space. So give yourself that space. Create it. Protect it. Claim it. And when the storm arrives again, and it will, you won't shrink. You'll dance. Not because you have all the answers, but because now you trust the rhythm inside you. Let this be your declaration. Say it in your heart, or share it with the world. I accept the storm because I was born to lead through it. And if those words stir something inside you, if you feel seen or affirmed in any way today, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what part of this message resonated most with you? What storm are you walking through, and how are you choosing to rise? You see, healing is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up again and again, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when no one else seems to understand. And if you've made it this far in the video, then please know your presence here matters deeply. Your attention, your energy, your heart, it keeps this space alive. Every like, every comment, every moment you share with eternal mindfulness allows us to grow together as a soul-centered community. I am so grateful for you. So if you feel called, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and help carry this message to someone else who may need it. Your simple actions ripple farther than you know. And they help us keep building this space, not just as a channel, but as a refuge for truth, healing, and empowerment. Thank you, from the deepest part of my heart, for being here. For being brave enough to look within. For saying yes to your own transformation. The universe may not always be loud, but it is never late. And right now, it's guiding you exactly where you need to be. Keep walking. Keep trusting. You are not behind. You are becoming. And I'll be here, cheering you one very step of the way.